Hello and welcome back to another Friday show. We're now on episode 3 and this will be the last episode before we name the show. If you have any suggestions, now is your last chance to be heard in the comments. This week we talked to Mr. Skysight himself about his flying and Euroglide. We'll then cover a bit of news including an update on the DGAD, and we'll finish off with another Jake Brattle forecast. First up, here's the interview with Matthew Scutter. He's the creator of Skysight, a fantastic pilot, and recently he took part in Euroglide, a 2,500 kilometer race across Europe.
Hey, well, my name is Matthew Scutter. I'm the founder of Skysight. I've also done a fair bit of gliding all around the world. I'm spending a bit more time in Europe these days, trying to do 3 months a year out here, visiting competitions, promoting Skysight, and going new places and doing new things.
I really enjoyed your recent videos on Euroglide. It's quite nice to see someone actually post stuff and it be, well, A, fun and B, a video.
Yeah, I mean, I did that kind of thing in the past, like particularly I think the 2016 or 2017 Worlds in Lithuania. I did some video reviews and you get teased for it endlessly, but I do think it is actually helpful and interesting to people. So I thought I'd give it another try again and see if it got some engagement. And the world seems to be a little bit different now. It seems to be a little bit more socially acceptable or interesting to do vlogging and that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's the demographic in gliding has changed or what, but people seem to enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah, I do think it has changed quite a bit, but I think we need a lot more content in aviation. So seeing someone else also doing it is really good. And he's also really good on camera, so that definitely helps. One of the things I've noticed is people probably didn't realize that Euroglide existed before your videos recently. I think there's a big chunk of the gliding audience who didn't know what it was.
I think it's actually one of the oldest competitions in gliding, but the idea is that instead of having a defined task each day and you launch from one place and land in the same place again, you instead have a 2,500 kilometer task. It used to be 2,000 but gliders have got a bit better lately. Now it's up to 2,500. And it's just however long it takes you. There's a bunch of quite complex rules about exactly the circumstances, how you do all these different things that are not that important. The basic principle is really just each day you launch and you try and make some forward progress. And hopefully by the end of 2 weeks, you've got all the way back around from Venlo back to Venlo again. So Venlo's just on the border of France, Germany, and the Netherlands. But if you like the kind of racing, which is definitely not focused on gaggles, I think I thermaled with 4 gliders over 2,500 It was basically just always flying by yourself. And if you like really big picture, meteorological scale, meteorological navigation decisions, that kind of thing, like, you know, that you get from a big AAT or something like that, if that kind of thing is the thing that interests you in sailplane racing compared to, say, start games or tactics or flams or radars or gaggles, then Euroglide could really be the contest for you. It's been very popular for a very, very long time. They almost always book out with over 100 gliders there. I think there was 120 gliders or 120 people flying it at least this year. So it's definitely not unpopular, but it is largely Dutch. I think more than half the competitors come from the Netherlands each year. I'm not really sure why that is. I think the rules detract from it a little bit, that it's a bit too complex for most people who haven't already flown it to get their heads around in the beginning, and maybe that is why it's not more popular. But I mean, they couldn't really host any more gliders than they already have there, so I don't think Euroglide needs to change, but rather I think it'd be great if we get more events like this, more kinds of travel by glider competitions.
Yeah, I think probably a part of it is also people just don't know about it. I mean, I only found out probably about 2 years ago, something like that, and I've been gliding for quite a while. One of the things that sort of got me very interested is the logistics of it all, because you find out how soon do you find out the task?
Oh, we've known it for months. It kind of reminds me, I read in an old sailplane and gliding magazine, I think, one of the first competitions in the Soviet Union or something like that, where they let in Western pilots, but they had to book the airspace for the tasks a month in advance. So they set all of the tasks for each day a month in advance, and then it'd be, well, it's raining today, but the tasks are 500 because that's what we booked, and you'd have to go deal with it. With the task predefined so far in advance and no idea what the weather is going to be, it really is it's a significant challenge.
Obviously, you look at the forecast, you see which section of the sky is going to be working for you that day. You make that plan for the route. That sort of how do you get accommodation, food, and all that sort of sorted out? Because obviously you're not landing back on the same airfield, so you can't pitch a tent and come back to it at the end of the day. So how does that work?
So, I mean, I've never done it before. So the way I decided to do it was Sophie followed along with our camper van and also the glider trailer just full of stuff with stuff to eat, a little gas cooker. We had a tent as well, but mostly we just slept in the car. and that was quite straightforward. But I think probably even the majority of participants are going by themselves in their gliders with no support crew, and they just figure it out. And I spoke to probably a dozen people on the grid before we went, and not a single person had ever had to sleep outside the whole time. They always land and they figure something out. They find a local who says, "Oh, come stay with me," or they walk into town, or they just sort it out, and it just seems to work. It definitely is a bit of a strategic advantage if you want to win, though, I think, having someone following you, because, I mean, I was landing some days at like 8 p.m. or something like that. And if you do that, then, well, it's not very long before it's dark and everything's closed. So I think you probably have to land a little bit early if you're going to do that. But the vast majority of participants at Euroglide are not hardcore racers. They're there to have fun. They're a big group of friends. Maybe it's 4 people in an Arcus and they're swapping 2 each day, or it's just really stuff like that. And they're quite happy to land at 4 or 5 o'clock, walk into town, have a nice dinner, find somewhere to sleep while there's still plenty of daylight, and not take it that seriously. And I think if you're going to approach it like that, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with, then it's really just not a problem at all.
That does sound actually genuinely very fun. Proper adventure, proper gliding adventure. I mean, I like the idea of camping in general. Gliding camping sounds fun.
The model I saw that I think works really, really well is you have a crew that follows. So you have 2 of you in an Arcus or a duo or something like that. It doesn't even have to be a motor glider, just a pure glider. And then you have 2 following in a car with a trailer. And inside the trailer, you have a fully assembled campsite. So you have your tables, your chairs, your tents. And then when you get to your rough destination airfield, you chuck all that out, and hopefully the glider makes it. If it doesn't, you go pick it up and you bring it to the airfield and rig it. And then the next day you put the campsite, just fully assembled, popped up tents and everything, just in the trailer, close the lid on it and drive off wherever you're aiming for next. And I think it's a really great combination hybrid of camping, traveling and gliding.
When this video goes live, will be probably when Euroglide actually ends, because it hasn't ended yet, has it?
No, and people are still flying. So I finished it on Friday last week, and the finale is Friday this week, and there's still gliders out on task, and as far as I know, no one else has finished.
Obviously, meteorology is your bread and butter, and I feel like meteorology is something that a lot of glider pilots struggle with. I know I struggled with it a long time. I failed my bronze test twice because of meteorology. Is there some sort of hints and tips, some advice you have for people who are learning it for the first time, what they can look at?
I mean, my philosophy is I'm not a meteorologist. I'd say I'm a software engineer, and I'm trying to design a product that does not in fact require people to learn arcane words and technologies and things like that. And I think most of the problems with forecasting, or many of the problems that comp organizers encounter, because they're trying to apply these ancient philosophies and techniques to the modern world. So things like trigger temperatures and all that kind of stuff, that was from the days when you did a balloon flight yourself at 7 a.m. It doesn't really make sense to go, well, the trigger temperature is 21 degrees based on the model, because if you get to 21 degrees and the model, if it's forecast to be 21 degrees and it's not, and then the model was wrong, and then trying to rely on, we need to get up to the trigger temperatures, thing like that, it just doesn't make sense. You need to understand why the model didn't get there. So I'm very much trying to promote a culture of not burdening students with things like SKUTs and stuff like that, and trying to produce tools for people that they don't need that kind of meteorological background to understand the weather. I think making it sound like some arcane thing hidden behind a wall in an ivory tower of bearded men and stuff like that, it just makes it more complex than it needs to be. That really it's not that difficult to understand. There's going to be cumulus here, there's going to be blue there, there's a risk of thunderstorms there. I want that to be the kind of detail that glider pilots need and are able to access within Skysight, at least.
What we need really is a culture shift.
Yeah, I mean, I think just a lot of the stuff we're teaching people is not actually the practical skills that they need today. It's like you don't necessarily need a sound understanding of aerodynamics down to Reynolds numbers to understand how to fly a glider. You're actually quite capable of figuring out stick goes left, stick goes right, glider rolls left, glider rolls right, without completely understanding the physics. I mean, sure, I think there's an elementary understanding that should be there, but a lot of this stuff is actually not necessary, and we could advance students a lot more and keep them more engaged if we kept a little bit less with the arcane stuff and got them flying a bit quicker.
What's your future look like? What have you got planned, both for Skysight and for your own flying?
So Skysight, we're doing more and more in the drone space, more stuff for these high altitude military company, which is not so interesting for the glider pilots, except that it brings in a lot of money, which lets us buy a lot better quality data, which lets us make better forecasts for the glider pilots. So a lot of my time is consumed with that. And for my own gliding, I'm continuing to explore more and more different locations. I really like to get to Spain and explore central Spain a bit, which used to be the go-to place in like the 70s and 80s. People used to go there to do their 1,000 Ks, and now that's not the vogue anymore. But I think there's really interesting things that happen down in Spain with mega weather conditions for large portions of the year. So I'd like to go explore that maybe next year. I had a really great time in Italy last year at Rieti. I'm just going to keep exploring, trying to find new things, new places, and new projects.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think that's everything from me. Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, it's been great chatting to you. I hope your podcast becomes a great success.
I mean, to be honest, so do I. I think there's a lot of really cool stories out there from people from all walks of life. So I'd like to talk to more people and hear what they have to say. Well, I mean, yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking. I think, yeah, your story is very interesting and I'd love to talk to you in the future. Well done for showing up Euroglide. Yeah, we'll chat soon.
All right, sounds good. See you later.
Thanks again for coming on the show. Fun fact, if you buy Skysight through us, you get an extra month for free. On to the news. We're still hiring. We're looking for someone to run and develop the Navboys shop. You don't need to be an expert as training will be provided, but if you're interested, drop Jake an email. His email address is jake@navboys.com. Looks like Sebastian Cava's mission to Saul K2 is going ahead, as his latest post was an update from Pakistan. If you'd like to follow along, the link to his Facebook page is below. Shenington Regionals are starting tomorrow. For those of you going, you can look forward to Jake's cross-country workshop on Thursday the 11th. If you're flying in the south of England, make sure to check your NOTAMs because the Silverstone Rat is active till Sunday. The DG Elevator AD 2024-0126 is going live on the 16th of July. If you have a DG with an all-flying tailplane or a hotelier connection for your elevator, then this AD does not affect you. If you have a DG 100, 200, 300 or 400 with a self-connecting elevator, then you must replace the elevator rod end by the 16th of October. Some only DG 100s and 200s will require a special part. We'll link to the relevant note in the description below. For DG 500s, 600s, 800s and 1000s, your glider must be inspected by the 16th of October. If your glider fails the inspection, then the glider cannot fly until the rod end is replaced. All of these gliders may also require a roller replacement if this fails the inspection. See the relevant tech note for your aircraft for more information. To order parts, please send us an email. You will need a service contract in place as DG will not accept any orders without it. If you haven't got one, then please find the form linked in the description below and then email it to us. As the demand for these parts is high and the production rate is slow, we recommend that you get your order in as soon as you can. In other news, I am going on holiday, so there will be no show next week. As such, next week the Junior Worlds are starting. The junior team are currently in France training and will be heading to Ostrów, Poland for the competition start. Representing the UK, we have Henry Indigo Jones and Oliver Ramsey competing in the standard class, with George Downing and George White competing in the club class. Fly fast and fly safe, gents. Now over to Jake with the weather.
Thank you, Dorian. Let's get into it. Right, looking at the surface pressure chart for, this is Friday midday UTC, and going into Friday night, Saturday morning, we've got this huge cold front which is disappearing to our southeast, and that leaves behind it some very unsettled showery conditions, as you can see by all these trough lines. The isobars are also quite close together, so it's going to be quite windy. Going into Sunday, looks less windy but still very unsettled, all these trough lines. Let's take a look on the other forecast to see what that means. I've gone for Honiton in Devon, that's near North Hill, as that looks one of the better areas for Saturday. And looking at the weather on BBC Weather, looks good. You can see it's going to be windy, surface level 18 miles an hour. That's probably going to be quite windy at flying height. Temperatures get up to 16 degrees and it looks sunny, minimal chance of rain in this area. And then Sunday looks a lot more unsettled, and this is kind of the picture across the country. Met Office, just as a comparison, looks very similar. Wind gusts on the surface getting up to 28 miles an hour during the day on Saturday. And Sunday, much the same. Okay, on Skysight, so we're looking at the potential flight distance for Saturday across the UK. you can see that there's not very many places where Skysight reckons you can go far on Saturday. This is sort of the very northwest point of England, very southwest point of Scotland. Looks good. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any gliding clubs there. And then along the south coast looks okay, particularly in the southwest. Hence why I was looking at North Hill. And just wanted to show you the thermal strengths. So you can see the thermal strengths forecast to be decent along the south coast. Lots of rain in the middle of the country, but you can see this mottled effect, and that's showing the impact of the wind. It's going to be difficult to centre thermals. And on that point, we'll just look at the wind map. You can see 30 knot winds across the average, across the boundary layer, across a lot of the country. And it doesn't really change much during the day. Quick look at Sunday. Potential flight distance on Sunday across the country. Looks good across a little bit more of Scotland, and maybe in Kent actually on Sunday looks pretty good. Just as a comparison, does look showery though. You can see, look at the extent of the rain, and still quite windy in places. Satellite pictures, again, just really just showing you what I tend to use in the morning, so well worth checking this website in the morning. And let's look at what Dave Masson's got to say. So on Sunday, he's saying at Lasham, a very good air mass behind the cold front, but very windy. Cumulus base 4,500 to 5,000 with streeting, but probably too windy to go anywhere. Sunday looks similar, slightly different wind direction. SIDS weather. SID's got a forecast for Saturday, which, yeah, looks largely in line with everything else. And Phil's weather brief at Dunstable. Saturday looks breezy, but showers and possibly thunderstorms. Sunday, lighter winds, but still showery. Okay, that's the weather for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Okay, that's the weather for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks.